Welcome. This video focuses on developing and measuring performance objectives within the assessment planning process. It will explore where performance objectives and measurement fit within an assessment plan and review best practices for writing these elements clearly and effectively. We will begin with a brief overview of assessment plan items and the role of performance objectives and measurement within that structure. From there, we will examine guiding questions for writing performance objectives, the characteristics of strong objectives, strategies for writing them effectively, and approaches for measuring achievement. We will also review important considerations to keep in mind throughout the process and explore how AI can be used as a supportive tool when developing assessment plans. The video will conclude with reflections on effective performance outcomes assessment and its role in continuous improvement. To understand where performance objectives and measurement fit, it is important to understand where they are situated in the structure of an assessment plan. This diagram illustrates how the major components of an assessment plan connect to form a continuous cycle of improvement. Although the assessment plan does not include a mission statement, the mission of the unit serves as the foundation of the assessment plan and establishes the overall direction of the unit. From the mission, broad goals are identified, which then lead to specific performance objectives that describe the desired outcome of a non-learning task. Each performance objective is paired with a key performance indicator and a target, which, taken together, determine how achievement of a performance objective will be measured and what level of performance represents success. Once measurement occurs, the process produces results, which provide evidence of performance. Those results then inform actions, the decisions or improvements to be made in response to the results. Together, these steps contribute to a plan for continuous improvement, reinforcing that assessment is not a one-time activity, but an ongoing iterative process that strengthens a non-academic unit's effectiveness over time. Now that we've seen how performance objectives and measurement methods fit within the overall structure of an assessment plan, the next step is to think more intentionally about how we evaluate our efforts. To do this, it's helpful to begin with a set of guiding questions that frame the assessment process and help you focus on what matters most. When evaluating performance outcomes, assessment should help answer several key questions. First, what is the unit trying to accomplish? Understanding the purpose of the service or initiative is essential for determining appropriate outcomes. Second, how well is the unit performing? This involves collecting data that reflects the quality and effectiveness of services or operations. Third, how can the unit improve? Assessment should ultimately support informed decision-making and guide improvements. Finally, units should consider how their work contributes to student success or institutional effectiveness, and how similar units at other institutions approach assessment. Collectively, these guiding questions provide the foundation for developing strong performance objectives and selecting meaningful approaches to measurement, topics we will examine next. Having reviewed the broader structure of an assessment plan and the guiding questions that inform effective assessment, we now turn to the characteristics of performance objectives, beginning with a clear definition. A performance objective is a specific and detailed statement describing the expected outcome of a non-learning activity. Unlike learning objectives, which focus on student knowledge or skills, performance objectives evaluate the effectiveness of services, programs, or operational processes. Examples may include improving service satisfaction, increasing program participation, or reducing wait times for services. A strong performance objective must include one clear and measurable action verb, which ensures the outcome can be evaluated using data. When writing performance objectives, selecting a clear action verb is both important and necessary. Using precise action verbs helps ensure that objectives are observable and measurable, which is essential for effective assessment. In addition, including a strong action verb ensures that you clearly communicate the type of performance being targeted. Many faculty members are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, which provides a framework for choosing strong action verbs when writing learning objectives. Some of these same verbs may also be useful when writing performance objectives, particularly when describing measurable actions or outcomes. There is also a taxonomy with strong action verbs specifically designed for non-academic outcomes for administrative and support units. This framework is called the Schultz-Dorame-Williams Support Outcomes Taxonomy. This framework provides a collection of action verbs and outcome categories that are particularly useful for writing performance objectives related to services and operational processes. After reviewing the definition of a performance objective and 2 resources for selecting necessary action verbs, the focus now shifts to what makes a performance objective truly meaningful. Not all performance objectives are equally useful for assessment, so it is important to focus on developing objectives that are truly meaningful. First, meaningful objectives should focus on making the unit more effective. The goal is not simply to document what the unit is doing, but to identify ways to enhance services, processes, or outcomes. They should also emphasize quality over quantity. Rather than measuring how much is being done, meaningful objectives focus on how well services are delivered and whether they are meeting needs. In addition, strong objectives should target significant areas that can inform important decisions. This means prioritizing outcomes that will provide valuable insights and guide improvements, rather than focusing on minor or routine activities. Clarity is also essential. Objectives should be written in a way that is easily understood by colleagues, stakeholders, and even students, ensuring that the purpose and expected outcomes are clear to anyone reviewing the assessment plan. Equally important, objectives must be observable and measurable, which is why selecting a precise action verb is critical. If an outcome cannot be measured, it cannot be effectively assessed. At the same time, objectives should be concise and impactful. Avoid unnecessary wording or fluff and focus on clearly stating the intended outcome. It is also essential to avoid framing objectives around routine tasks or day-to-day responsibilities. Instead, objectives should reflect areas that need improvement or evaluation. Finally, meaningful objectives should not be framed as simple yes or no outcomes. Instead, they should allow for varying levels of performance so that data can provide deeper insight into how well the unit is achieving its broader goals. With an understanding of what makes a performance objective meaningful, the next step is to apply a structured framework for developing them. One of the most widely used frameworks for writing strong objectives is the SMART method. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. This framework helps ensure that objectives are clearly defined, measurable through data, realistic for the unit to achieve, aligned with the unit's mission, and associated with a specific time frame. Using the SMART method helps units write objectives that are focused, meaningful, and accessible. The first component of the SMART framework is specific. A specific objective focuses on one clear outcome, rather than combining multiple outcomes in a single statement. When an objective tries to address too many outcomes at once, it becomes difficult to measure and evaluate. The component of the SMART method is measurable. A measurable performance objective includes one action verb that describes something that can be observed and evaluated. Verbs such as increase, decrease, or reduce point to specific outcomes that can be assessed using real data, such as participation counts, service times, usage rates, or satisfaction scores. In contrast, vague verbs like improve, enhance, or support do not describe observable outcomes. While these terms may reflect good intentions, they do not clearly indicate what will be measured or how success will be determined. Measurable objectives should also connect directly to the methods of assessment, whether the unit uses institutional data, tracking systems, surveys, or other tools. The wording of the objective should make it clear what data will be collected and evaluated. As a quick check, ask yourself, if I had to identify a data source or measurement method for this objective today, would the wording tell me exactly what to measure? If the answer is unclear, then the objective likely needs to be refined to ensure it is truly measurable. Objectives should also be attainable. This means the outcomes should be realistic given the unit's available resources, responsibilities, and operational capacity. While objectives should be ambitious enough to encourage improvement, they should also remain achievable within the time frame established. A strong objective must also be relevant to the unit's mission and responsibilities. Performance objectives should reflect the unit's core services, initiatives, or priorities and contribute to broader unit goals. Relevance ensures that assessment activities remain meaningful and aligned with the unit's purpose. The final component of the SMART framework is time-bound. Each objective should clearly specify the time frame for achieving the expected outcome. Examples might include the end of the semester, the end of the academic year, or the end of the calendar year. Establishing a time frame allows units to track progress and determine when to review assessment results. Now that we have explored the characteristics of effective performance objectives and the SMART framework, the next step is learning how to write strong performance objectives. In the next few slides, we will look at examples that demonstrate how vague statements can be transformed into meaningful, SMART performance objectives that can be assessed effectively. Let's begin with our first example. The vague objective, expand faculty participation in assessment training, conveys a general intention, but it does not clearly define what will be measured. The revised SMART version improves this by stating that the Office of Assessment will increase the number of faculty participating in training sessions by the end of the academic year. This objective is specific because it focuses on faculty participation in assessment training sessions. The use of a single action verb, increase, makes the objective measurable because participation can be tracked through attendance data. The objective is attainable because offering additional training sessions provides more opportunities for faculty to participate. It is also relevant because it aligns directly with the mission and purpose of the Office of Assessment. Finally, the objective is time-bound because it specifies that the outcome should be achieved by the end of the current academic year. By addressing each element of the SMART framework, the vague statement becomes a clear, measurable, and accessible performance objective. In this example, the objective, enhance customer satisfaction with campus dining, is vague. Although this statement could serve as a goal, the term enhance is not measurable and does not indicate how success will be evaluated. The revised version specifies that dining services will increase the average customer satisfaction rating by the end of the academic year. Looking at the SMART elements, we can see how this objective is strengthened. It is specific because it focuses on customer satisfaction ratings related to dining services. It is measurable because it uses the action verb increase, which can be evaluated using survey data or rating scales. It is attainable because satisfaction can be improved through realistic operational changes, such as adjustments to service quality or food offerings. It is relevant because it directly aligns with the mission and purpose of dining services. And finally, it is time-bound because it specifies that the outcome should be achieved by the end of the academic year. Together, these elements make the objective clear, measurable, and accessible. The third example focuses on student engagement. The vague objective, promote student attendance at the Undergraduate Research Symposium, suggests an intention, but does not define a measurable outcome. The revised SMART version states that the Honors College will increase the number of students who attend the Undergraduate Research Symposium during the spring semester of 2026. Again, we can break this down using the SMART framework. It is specific because it focuses on attendance at a particular event, the Undergraduate Research Symposium. It is measurable because it uses the action verb increase, which allows attendance data to be tracked and evaluated. It is attainable because increased outreach and promotion can reasonably lead to higher attendance. It is relevant because it supports student engagement in undergraduate research and aligns with the mission of the Honors College. And it is time-bound because it clearly identifies the spring semester of 2026 as the time frame for achieving the objective. By addressing each SMART element, this objective becomes much more effective and easier to assess. Once a performance objective has been written, The next step is deciding how it will be measured. Measurement is essential because it provides the data needed to evaluate whether the objective has been achieved and to guide future improvements. Measuring a performance objective involves two key components: the key performance indicator and the target. The KPI is the method used to collect data, such as institutional records, surveys, or tracking systems. The target represents the benchmark for success, the specific value or level of performance that indicates the performance objective has been achieved. Together, these elements provide a clear and structured way to measure and evaluate an outcome. Now that we've defined KPI and target, let's take a closer look at the different type of methods used to collect this data, starting with direct methods of measurement. Direct methods of measurement focus on actual performance data. These methods evaluate the effectiveness of services, programs, or processes by examining tangible outcomes, such as participation rates, processing times, or usage data. Direct data provides concrete evidence of how well a unit is performing in relation to its objectives. While direct methods focus on actual performance data, it is also important to consider how services are experienced. This is where indirect methods of measurement come into play. Indirect methods of measurement focus on perceptions and experiences. These methods typically include surveys, interviews, and focus groups that gather feedback on how individuals perceive the quality and effectiveness of services. Although indirect methods do not directly measure performance, they can provide valuable insight into user satisfaction and experience. Both direct and indirect methods are important in assessment. Direct methods might include institutional data, processing times, attendance, or usage statistics, data that reflects actual performance. Indirect methods include surveys, interviews, and focus groups, which capture individuals' feedback. Using both types of data together provide a more comprehensive understanding of how well a unit is functioning. Now that we've defined KPIs and targets and explored both direct and indirect methods of measurement and how they work together, let's turn to some key guidelines for selecting and structuring effective measurement methods. When developing methods of measurement, begin with the KPI. The KPI must be clearly aligned with the performance objective, contain one action verb, and reflect exactly what is being measured. Some objectives may require more than one KPI, and best practice suggests including at least one direct and one indirect measure for each objective. Each KPI should also specify the data source, the evaluation scale, and any relevant contextual information, such as how and when the data will be collected and by whom. Next, consider the target. The target must align with the KPI and define a realistic and reasonable level of success. It should also include contextual information, such as prior results or expected changes, to explain why the selected benchmark is appropriate and attainable. In the next 3 slides, we will look at examples that demonstrate how a KPI and a target come together for each of the SMART performance objective examples we reviewed earlier. Let's begin by revisiting the performance objective. The Office of Assessment will increase the number of faculty participating in training sessions by the end of the academic year. To measure this objective, the KPI identifies the data source as the university's talent management system, which tracks training attendance. The target is 180 faculty participants, which was selected based on prior attendance and the planned increase in training opportunities. Because both the KPI and target are directly aligned with the objective, the unit can clearly determine whether participation has increased as intended. In this example, the performance objective is SHSU Dining Services will increase the average customer satisfaction rating for campus dining services by the end of the academic year. To measure this, the KPI involves distributing a Qualtrics survey to collect feedback from faculty, staff, and students. The KPI also includes contextual information about the survey and the rating scale. The target specifies that 80% of respondents will report being satisfied or very satisfied, which exceeds the minimum standard required for compliance. The target also includes a statement explaining why the target was selected. Here, the KPI captures individuals' perception, while the target defines a clear benchmark for success, ensuring strong alignment with the objective. In this final example, the performance objective is the Honors College will increase the number of students attending the Undergraduate Research Symposium during the spring semester of 2026. The KPI uses Bearcat 1 card data to track student attendance, providing a direct and reliable measure of participation. The target is 130 students, representing a 30% increase from the previous year. This example clearly demonstrates how the performance objective, KPI, and target work together to create a measurable and meaningful assessment strategy. As assessment efforts continue, it is important to recognize that performance objectives and measurement methods may evolve over time, and they should be reviewed regularly to ensure they remain relevant, meaningful, and aligned. There are several reasons when a unit may need to revise its objectives or measurement methods. For example, if a target is consistently met over multiple cycles, the unit may choose to set a more ambitious goal. Changes may also occur when the unit's mission evolves, when new services are introduced, or when professional standards are updated. As performance objectives and measurement methods evolve, it's also important to consider who should be informed and engaged in this process. Assessment is a collaborative process, and many stakeholders should be aware of performance objectives and measurement methods. This includes department staff, leadership, institutional administrators, and in some cases, students and external stakeholders. Sharing this information promotes transparency and supports informed decision-making. When developing assessment plans, AI can serve as a valuable support tool within the assessment process. AI can assist with drafting performance objectives, suggesting measurable action verbs, and helping structure KPIs and targets, which can improve efficiency and support early-stage planning. At the same time, AI-generated content must be reviewed and refined by faculty and staff. Human expertise is essential to ensure alignment with strategic initiatives, operational standards, unit goals, and needs. AI should be viewed as a starting point that supports reflection and planning, not as a replacement for professional judgment. When used thoughtfully, AI can enhance efficiency while keeping assessment grounded in academic expertise and intentional decision-making. The Office of Assessment has created an AI-assisted assessment plan guide for both academic and non-academic units that includes step-by-step instructions and prompts for all assessment plan items. This guide is available on the Office of Assessment's resource webpage. Now that we've explored how to develop and measure performance objectives, let's take a moment to reflect on how this work supports ongoing assessment and continuous improvement. Moving forward, it is important to remember that performance assessment is most effective when it is an ongoing collaborative dialogue. Assessment should not be viewed as a one-time task, but as a continuous process of reflection, discussion, and improvement. By regularly reviewing data, sharing insights, and working together, units can make more informed decisions and enhance the effectiveness of their services. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this review of developing and measuring performance objectives. Your commitment to thoughtful assessment plays an important role in supporting continuous improvement across the institution. If you would like additional support as you develop or refine your assessment plans, the Office of Assessment is available to assist. Please feel free to contact the assessment team or visit the Office of Assessment's website for resources, guidance, and additional tools to support your assessment work.